So guys, I want to make a video about Khan and how his career after the Danny Garcia defeat. You know, a lot of people, Teddy Atlas was one that criticized Khan of being a great manager and a guy that, gets big fights when he doesn't deserve them. Now, I don't quite agree with that statement. But what I say here is, I feel that Amir Khan, after the Danny Garcia defeat, became a fighter that actually became more of a businessman. And what I mean by that is, earlier on in his career, if you look at it, it was well structured, well managed. He was taking the right fights at the right time. Everything about it was, his career was being built up properly, right? And here's why. Because a lot of people thought Amir Khan was going to be the money man. He had a massive following. A lot of people were behind him. And a lot of people were pushing Amir Khan to become a massive star because of how he was performing in the ring, because of the kind, like I said, the fan base and how much buzz there was around Amir Khan. Promoters saw an opportunity to make a huge amount of money out of this guy. So this is why that Amir Khan at that point was being well managed. He was getting the right fights. Here's the thing. When he fought Lamont Peterson, a lot of people, that was a good fight. That was a good fight. And many people thought Amir Khan won. And there was a lot of controversy around that fight. And promoters probably thought, that happens. That can happen. But then Peterson failed a drugs test. And that rematch not happening was probably the worst thing for Amir Khan, because I actually think Amir Khan would have beaten Lamont Peterson in the rematch. After, he fought Danny Garcia, his dad got under his head and Danny Garcia ended up knocking Amir Khan out. Now, after Amir Khan was knocked out by Danny Garcia, I feel that the promoters, the big guns like the Oscar De La Hoyas and just promoters in general, I think they kind of took a step back and they were no longer promoting him the same way, and he didn't have the same push behind him as he did before. He didn't have, because I think promoters probably realized that he's probably not as good as what they thought, and he's probably not going to be able to reach the levels that they initially thought that he would reach. So they kind of weren't as supportive anymore. And then Amir Khan had to do everything himself. He had to push everything himself, his team himself. He didn't really have a promoter. He was doing things himself. And that's why if you look at after the Danny Garcia defeat, his career, the way he was fighting once a year, he was very inactive. There was no real structure. If you look at, prior to the Danny Garcia defeat, there was a lot of structure. It was like a proper boxing career. After the Danny Garcia defeat, it was no real structure. He was fighting guys, and then he would go into a massive fight, like he did with Canelo, and it didn't see, the fight against Canelo, he was very inactive when he fought Canelo. And I just think that his career after that, and then it wasn't just that, it was the fact that he was calling out big names, like Mayweather and Pacquiao, which if you look at early on in his career, he wanted to fight those guys, but he wasn't calling them out. He was just taking its course. He was just fighting the guys that were put in front of him. But after the Danny Garcia defeat, he just started becoming more obsessive with the big fights, which he wasn't early on, and his structure, the way he was fighting, how many times he was fighting was no good after the Danny Garcia defeat as well. There wasn't fighting regular, and even though he signed with Eddie Hearn in his last phase of his career, I still think that, he fought two guys and then he went and fought Crawford. To be honest, I just didn't like after the Danny Garcia defeat, the way his career has been structured. I didn't particularly like it. And I think a lot of that was down to the fact that, like I said, he didn't have the same push. The Canelo fight, Eddie Hearn mentioned something which at the time many people didn't like, is that Amir Khan got used as an opponent, and he did against Canelo. And even in this Crawford fight, Amir Khan got used as an opponent. His name got used. And same with the Canelo situation. His name got used because they thought, Khan's got a big name, Canelo can fight him and we can have a great fight. Same with Crawford. Crawford thought that Amir Khan's the biggest name possible to make this a pay-per-view event. And that's why they chose Amir Khan. And yeah, I think after the Danny Garcia defeat, I think Amir Khan's career has not been the same. I don't know whether he had the same dedication after the Danny Garcia defeat as well. But I know early on, if you look at his career, the way it was structured, the way he was as well, he was very focused, and he wasn't really just calling out Pacquiao Mayweather. He was you know, he was fighting whoever was put in front of him, and he was carving out his own name. And but whereas I think after the Danny Garcia defeat, he became more obsessive with the bigger fights, probably because he realized that he knows he could lose, and before he loses again, he wanted those big fights. But that's just, I think the Danny Garcia defeat really derailed him, if I'm honest. But that's just my take on it. But leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you disagree? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.